pen, tying up those loose ends because we've reached the end. And it's very sad because I really like this show and I hope that the show continues. But we'll get into that at the end of the video. Let's just let's kick it off because there's a lot to go through here because I know the show is called Swamp Thing, but honestly, the show should really be called Marais. The show should be called Marais: The Adventures of Abby Arcane. Not just because of Abby, but I say Marais because everybody has something to do in the show. Like, there's no such thing as like BS characters that just stand there and don't do nothing. There's no filler characters. Everybody has a storyline on this show. Like, you know, and the episode did a good job of wrapping up all those individual storylines, you know, as far as like each individual character going into depth with people's backstory and things of that nature. Yeah, you know, like even Delroy, you know, like has some, you know, has some meat to his situation. So they wrapped up the whole cast, the whole crew of Swamp Thing. So let's get right into it and talk about Marais. So the episode starts with, you know, where we left it, where Swamp Thing he went into the coup up in Skeeter Cove to to reclaim his remains, and you know he found the remains of Alec Holland. Him and Abby are both having a conversation about it, and he's just like, you know, I was never a man, I was never Alec Holland. And then she was like, yes, you are. She was like, you know, your consciousness, you know, your love, your memories, everything. It's about, you know, like you're Alec. But he was just like, I'm no longer inside. It's like, you know, like it's his, because again, like the swamp sucked up his consciousness, but he's just like, I'm just a swamp creature. Tried to tell him, like Abby tried to tell him, she was like, listen, but she was like, you know, like I know you're still in there, and I'm not going to abandon you. I'm still going to be here for you. And then he was just like, wait, hold on, I hear something, because his powers are growing now, whereas like before, he was able to touch the trees and see certain things, seeing the past, seeing the future, see people coming before they come. Now he said he can hear them. And then he was just like, you know, he's like, there are people coming and they're angry. And then she was just like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to take care of it like I should have did. You know, like from the beginning, you know, and then Alec Holland's remains, you know, goes back into the water. And then when Abby turned around, Swamp Thing had disappeared because he knew they was coming for that ass. So he was trying to get himself ready. Abby ended up going to, you know, to Liz's Pops bar. She had a conversation with Liz, and then she was just like, you know, she was upset. You know, she said that, you know, like I failed him and I tried to turn him normal, but, you know, he found his body and Alec is gone, you know, but he, you know, like, but he still resides into the swamp creature. And then she told Liz, she was like, I can't give up on him. You know, and Liz was very understanding about it. She was just like, of course. She was like, I understand you can't give up on him. But she was like, but if you're going to do this, first we need to decide, you know, how we gonna go about it if we're gonna try to save his ass. So she was like, first of all, ain't no way in hell Avery Sunderland and Woodrow got that military back in to do what they did to capture him in the first place. So she was just like, you know, we need to find out like where that backing came from. And then Abby was just like, yeah, because like some jerks in Atlanta, they ran up on me. And she was like, I'm pretty sure those Atlanta people have something to do with it with Avery Sunderland as well. You know, she was just like, you know, she was just like, if I can just get to talk to the Sunderlands. And then she, you know, Liz was like, well, maybe you can't talk to Maria. Because she was like, I don't know if you heard, but Maria got locked up in the loony bin. You know, she ran into Sunderland, and then, you know, I guess she pissed off the wrong people. So Maria gone. And then Abby was just like, oh, I have to go talk to Maria. So she got up, she went to go talk to Maria. Liz, meanwhile, she decided she was going to investigate the Blue Devil situation. So she goes back to Daniel's house, and when she goes to Daniel's house, the dude is like packing his bags or whatever. And then he was just like, look, he was like, he said that because he was playing loud music, and he was like, I'm playing the loud music because I hear voices. I hear the Blue Devil's voice in my head. He talks to me, you know, and then he was just like, you know, he's telling me that I got a bigger destiny. He was like, you know, my whole thing was I was just trying to get out of Marais so I can go back to Los Angeles and sit on the beach, you know, and like try to get my movie career started. But he was just like, now after being the Blue Devil, he was just like, I feel like that's like peanuts now. He's like, I feel like there's a bigger destiny for me out there, and I can't discover that destiny while I'm here in Marais. But he did tell Liz, he was just like, listen, you know, Abby is special, and for some reason I was trapped here in order to save her. And then he was like, but I saved her. And then she was just like, so now Abby's not enough for you to, for you to stay. And he was just like, he's like, well, I did what I had to do. He's like, I saved Abby. She good now. She's in Swamp Thing's hands. You know, he was just like, you know, I'm leaving. So he gave her the keys to his house. He was just like, yo, watch over my shop or whatever, which is good because if there was going to be a season 2, I would imagine that Abby would either live in Daniel's house or just live in that that laboratory that's off in Skeeter Cove, because, you know, why else would they emphasize like him giving Liz the keys? So you know, so he jumped in his car and then gave Liz a hug, which was cool. And then, like I said, then he dipped. He's in his car, he's driving, speeding, because like every time he gets to the sign that says "Welcome to Marais," he can't pass it. They showed us the flashback of when he tried to touch the force field, the imaginary force field, when his hands caught on fire. So he's driving top speed, and he's just like, we either gonna go crash or burn, or we gonna make it. And then he goes right through the "Welcome to Marais" sign, and it's funny because he was the one that was driving to that sign top speed, and when he passed through, even he was surprised, and then he was just like, the curse has been lifted. He was just like, in the words of the icon, he was like, yo, I'm out this bitch, and then, he kept going, and that was the last time we saw Daniel. Daniel's officially done. So then Avery Sunderland, he ends up going down to where the military is, because Black Manta Daddy, he got the troops ready. So Sunderland introduced himself to Black Manta Daddy for the first time, and he was just like, listen, don't hurt Holland too bad, because I need him for my experiments. And then he was just like, your experiments? He was just like, we, the government, we about to take this fool for ourselves. And he was like, you can't cut me out, man. You can't cut me out. And he was just like, first of all, bro, he was just like, we know about the whole situation with your with Lucilia, your sheriff girlfriend, and how they took you out to Skeeter Cove and they tried to kill you, and then you went they shot you dead. You went in the swamp. You came out looking like 40 miles of bad road. And he said, now the sheriff is coming for you, and she's really trying to take you out. He's just like, bro, your wife's in the loony bin. How about you take care of that? He's like, why don't you get your personal affair, like your personal affairs in order, get your house right, and then maybe we can come back and we can talk some business. But you go do that, and we gonna go get this Swamp Thing. So then, him and the troops, they went out to go after Swamp Thing, and then Avery got mad. Sunderland ended up going down to the bar, to Del Rey's bar. Him and Del Rey had a nice little conversation, and there was a moment where he looked like he was going to tell Del Rey a secret, and I don't know if he was going to tell Del Rey, like, Maddie's really your kid and not mine, but he was about to say something, then he changed his mind, and then he just said, F it, and then he went to the hospital to go see, to go see his son. So now Maria, she's in the loony bin now, and she's seeing things, like she's going crazy, like she was hearing voices, and she was envisioning like these hands coming through the walls that were touching her and like grabbing her, and then she's just like in the bed rocking back and forth screaming, and then out of nowhere Madame Xanadu popped up, and I'm like, where the hell did you come? I don't like. Somebody needs to explain to me what Madame Xanadu's powers are, because woman was just in the room, and I was like, I don't know how she got that. And then she was just like, Maria, you're going crazy. And then she was just like, oh, I hear the voices. And she was like, yes, because when you had me tried to bring Shauna's spirit back, you made me tap into some power. She's like, you tapped into some dark energy, and now it's a part of you, it's coming alive. And then she's like, what am I supposed to do? She's like, you can't do nothing. She's like, me done all I can do. She's like, but what I can do for you now is offer you some peace, that'll hopefully rest your soul. And then, Maria was just like, she didn't say what it was, but Maria obviously took the deal. So so then after she took the deal and Madame Xanadu used her magic power, voodoo, to do whatever she did to Maria Sunderland, Abby came into the room, and I'm just like, well, I guess Madame Xanadu doesn't have magic powers, because I thought Madame Xanadu just like manifested herself and just appeared into the room. I was wrong, because Abby just walked in there like Abby just walked in the room like nobody business. So I'm just like, all right, so maybe Madame Xanadu just sensed that something was wrong, and she just showed up. So Abby's there. She sees Maria, and she's just like, what's wrong? And then Maria's like, oh, I'm finally with my baby, my baby Shauna. And then Abby like, bitch, ain't nobody here. She ain't nobody. And then Madame Xanadu, she's like, no, let her rest. There's nothing more you can do. She's like, anything you need to do now, you must go to Avery Sunderland. He's like, let Maria's spirit rest in peace. And then Abby and Madame Xanadu, they leave, which was the last time we saw Madame Xanadu. And when the camera panned back to Maria, because again, it just showed her like rocking back and forth, like talking to an imaginary person, we actually saw what she saw. She actually saw Shauna, and in her mind, Shauna's there with her, and she was talking to Shauna, she was hugging her, she was like, my beautiful baby, I'll never let you go ever again. Because the thing about it is, when she did the whole seance thing with Madame Xanadu, the dark energy from the swamp, because Swamp Thing keeps saying there's a darkness that's out there. Some of that darkness did creep up into Maria. what Madame Xanadu did, she channeled that darkness, and instead of turning it into like these weird voices and all this craziness, she turned it into something positive, which was Shauna. So now that's what Maria sees from now on, which means now she's officially crazy. And because again, like, Maria's a part of it, and not only with the seance that Madame Xanadu did, but Maria also, when the ghost of Shauna like yanked her and dragged her into the swamp, she got all that swamp juice and like all that voodoo or whatever. So Maria got a little bit of that in her system as well. So, but right now she's just focused on seeing on Shauna, because that's what Madame Xanadu did, and that was the last time we saw Maria Sunderland, who's locked up in the crazy house. Your boy Woodrow. Now Woodrow, he's at his house, because he has Swamp Thing's remains. He was talking to his wife, because remember, his wife OD'd on the pills, and she's comatose. Well, she's paralyzed. It's like she can still see, like her eyes were moving, like her lips were quivering a little bit. She's conscious of what's going on. She just can't speak, and she can't move her body. Because of that, I have no idea why Woodrow taped her up to a chair, because I was just like, you already said the girl can't move, so I'm like, I guess he did it so she wouldn't fall out of the chair. But he basically told her, he was just like, yo, I got Swamp Thing's imaginary liver, like I got his swamp lungs, I got his swamp heart. We gonna cook this bad boy up, and we gonna make ourselves some food. He was just like, I'm gonna cook this up real quick. I'm gonna try to come up with a remedy, and we're gonna use this remedy to try to save you, so this way you won't have the advanced Alzheimer's anymore. So he's cooking it up in the kitchen, and then he had a little piece of swamp thing, and then he told her, he was like, he put it to her lips. He didn't make her eat it, but he was just like, oh, I would never test an untested substance on you first, my dear. He was like, without me trying it first. So he took, he ate it, basically looked like broccoli. He ate cooked Swamp Thing. I don't know why he had to cook it either. Anyway, so he ate it, whatever, and then he just started like wigging out. He fell on the floor. And then he got up, and he was just like, oh, I can feel it. He was like, I can feel the swamp. I can feel nature and everything around it that's connected. He was like, baby, it works. So he was about to give his wife some of it, so she can be cured of the Alzheimer's. And then Abby busted in the room. She was just like, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm trying to save my wife, and I'd appreciate it if you leave. And then she was just like, oh, she took all those pills. She needs a doctor. And so the two of them get into a fight. Abby ended up calling 911. Woodrow took the phone out of her hand, grabbed her, yoked her up. He actually like picked her up. And then he sat her down in the chair, and he was like, don't tell me what to do with my wife. And then he just proceeded to finish cooking the ingredients, whatever. And Abby just sat in the chair. And, so I was under the impression that when he sat her down, because once he put her in the chair, they cut to a different scene for something else. When we came back, Abby was sitting in the chair. She was talking to Woodrow. She was just like, what you're doing is wrong. That's Alec's remains. And he was like, there is no Alec Holland. Alec is just a plant man. And, this, that, and there. He's like, I'm going to save my wife. So he has the broccoli, the cooked broccoli. He's about to feed it to his wife. And then Abby just gets up out of the chair, bum rushes him, and the two of them start wrestling on the floor. And I'm sitting here like, bitch, I thought you was tied up. Like, so I'm just like, what was the point in having that whole conversation? There was no reason for her to continue to talk to Woodrow, to have a conversation with Woodrow, to argue with Woodrow about Alec Holland's remains or whatever. I'm just like, I thought she was tied up. So when she bum rushed, I'm like, you could have did that. You could have did that at any time. You could have left the house and alerted the proper authorities, whatever. So anyway, so she's wrestling with him on the floor. Then the cops show up because they said that, 911 traced the call when she made it. So two officers showed up. They tased Woodrow. He hits the floor. And then, they get his wife out of the tape. They put her in the back of an ambulance and take her to a hospital because, again, she did OD on those pills. So she needs, immediate, medical assistance. Liz showed up again. And then, Liz and Abby, because Liz was like, I heard it on the police scanner. So Liz went to the house. Her and Abby were having a conversation. And Liz was like, what happened? And then Abby was just like, Woodrow went crazy and, tried to do some unspeakable things to his wife. They bring Woodrow out the house, and Woodrow's just like, I'll save you, my darling. I'll save my wife. Curse you, Abby Arcane. They put him in the car and they drive off. And then that was the last time we saw Liz, unfortunately, because I love me some Liz. So, so now Liz is gone. Abby, I guess she on her way back to Skeeter Cove. And we're moving on to the next one. So now at this point, your boy Sunderland. So Sunderland goes to the hospital. You know, Matt woke up. He was talking to his mom. Him and his mom had a conversation. His daddy shows up. Him and the mom, him and Lucilia, they get into a conversation, and then he's just like, "Oh, my wife crazy, like she's in the nut house, and I think because of that now we about to get divorced, and then you and I can be together." And then she's like, she's like, "First of all, you stabbed your son. You made your son into a murderer. You've been blackmailing me for X amount of years." She was like, she said, "If you come anywhere near my son again," she's like, "I'm gonna put two in your ass," like I should have did when we dumped you in the swamp. So he gets mad and he leaves. After Lucilia has a conversation with Maddie, like her and Maddie were talking, Maddie was still kind of mad at her, and then he was just like, "Listen, Ma, I just want to be alone." So she got up, and then she was like, "All right, fine." So she leaves. She goes back to her car. When she gets into her police car, Sunderland is in the back seat, and then he's just like, "I used to love you." And then he took this big ass, I don't know where he got this knife from. He took this gigantic butcher knife and just like rammed it into her back from the back seat. But she was still alive. So, she tried to honk the horn. She tried to scream for help. So he takes the car out to the swamp. He put her in the trunk, and then he just drove the car off into the swamp, and then he's going to drown her. He's going to sink the car with her in the trunk. She wakes up, and then when she wakes up, she takes her cell phone out of her pocket, and she uses the light for the cell phone to see where she's at. And my whole thing is, why are you not calling 911? Like, she is just like, because I know the phone works. Like even though she's out in Skeeter Cove, like I know the phone works. So she was using it for light. She was screaming for help, like nobody could hear her. And then she basically, the car went under, and then Lucilia drowned. And that's the last time we saw Lucilia. Avery went back to his car. And then while he was sitting in his car celebrating a job well done, he started hacking like a little cat. And then he coughed up some what looked like green lungs or like whatever. So there's like some green shit that came out of his body. And then even he was like, "What the F is going?" Because the thing about it is, like I was saying before with Maria, how Maria ended up having, like, she was injected with some of like the swamp magic because she got pulled under, just like Shauna, she got pulled under by Shauna. Avery did the same thing. Avery got shot, he got thrown into the water or whatever, and he sunk to the bottom of the ocean. He basically went through the entire situation that Alec went through. The only difference between Alec and Sunderland is that the swamp grabbed hold of like the green grabbed a hold of Alec, and they sucked out his consciousness and his spirit, and they used it to create a swamp creature. I assume the dark part of the green basically just restored Avery Sunderland and brought him back to life, because he was down for the count. So now, but because of that's because remember, like from the beginning of the series, Woodrow created a chemical and he injected it into the swamp. So that chemical is within the entire swamp now. So anytime you eat something, you touch something, you drink the water, like that chemical is in you. So, it turned Holland into Swamp Thing. Avery's starting to cough up some green shit now. It made Maria go crazy. And now, because everybody's sitting here thinking that Lucilia is dead, if Alec can come back from drowning, if Maria can come back from drowning, if Avery can come back from drowning, why should I believe Lucilia is going to die in the trunk of that car? Nah. She just like everybody else, the swamp is going to inject her with the chemicals and the magic and all the mumbo jumbo. She gonna get out of that car. Like she coming out of that car, like whether she's transformed into something else or whether she becomes like Poison Ivy 2.0. Like Lucilia's not staying in that car. Mark my words. So and like I said, that was the last time we saw Lucilia. And after he was coughing up green lungs, that was the last time we saw Avery Sunderland. So now, remember, Black Manta Daddy, him and the rest of the soldiers, they're on their way to Skeeter Cove to go get Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing at this point, he's basically pissed, and he's just like, "Yo, I'm killing everybody." So like he killed this one dude, had him strung up on a tree, and he used that guy's body to lure the rest of the soldiers to him. And because all the soldiers, there was one woman, one black dude, and the rest of them was white. As soon as they all got to the part where their fallen comrade was, once the black dude saw his comrade like strung up in the vines, he was like, "Yo, let's leave." He was just Black Manta Daddy. He was like, "Yo, we out." He was like, "Yo, motherfuckers dead." Like, like this, like just like in a horror film, he was just like, "Yo, we out." But then they got surrounded. Like the path that they were on disappeared. The trees surrounded them, and then he said he was just like, "Yo, we're not hunting the swamp thing." He's like, he was actually hunting us. He was like, he used this dude that he killed as bait to lure us in, and he's like, "We're trapped now." And then Swamp Thing proceeded to kill everybody. He was stabbing people in the throat. He ripped some guy's jaw off, and then the last survivor, like it's funny because like in a horror, the black dude was the one guy who survived. So he ran up on Black Manta Daddy, and then he was like, "Tell your bosses, tell the world, tell everybody, leave me alone." And then the black dude was like, "Oh, Holland, we can save." He's like, "There is no Alec Holland." He was like, "Oh, but," he was like, "But he's like, "But what's inside of you can cure diseases. You can help humanity." He was like, "I don't care about humanity anymore." And then he was just like, "Tell everybody that the swamp, the green, is off limits." And then he actually let him go. He let him go because I guess no, you can't relay the message if you're dead. So he let Black Manta Daddy go, and that was the last time we saw him. And then Swamp Thing, after he ran off, Swamp Thing in a heated rage, he was just like like screaming at the top of his lungs. And then we get the actual Alec Holland, and it was so cool because he was screaming. The camera, like he was like, the camera slightly panned to the left, and then Alec is just leaning up against a tree, like, "So, you good? You got that out of your system now?" And then Swamp Thing was like, "Get out of here, you're dead." And it's crazy. He was just, and Alec even said, he was just like, yeah, he said physically, he was like, but up here, he's like, I'm still poking around. Because again, Alec Holland's consciousness resides in that swamp creature. And he was kind of having a conversation with himself. He was having a conversation with the green, but he was also he's like Yu-Gi-Oh, where he's like a spiritual being that exists in the physical form of another being. So although the consciousness of Alec Holland resides in Swamp Thing, the Swamp Thing consciousness and the Alec Holland consciousness are two different entities that exist in that one physical being. So he can actually have a conversation with the green through Swamp Thing, but he can also talk as Alec Holland through Swamp Thing as well. And the two of them had a conversation. Because at that point, Swamp Thing's whole thing was, he was like, "Look, I'm out." He's like, I'm gonna go to the deepest, darkest part of the green, and I'm just gonna disappear, and you ain't never gonna see me again. He was like, "I'm out this bitch." And then Alec was just like, "Nah," because he was like, "Is that the type of person that you want to be?" He was just like, because if you leave, he said, if you run, we lose any human connection that we have. And he was like, and then he was just like, "Oh, but humankind doesn't appreciate me." He was like, "Yeah, but there is one." And he was like, "Abby." And he was just like, if we lose her, we lose everything. We lose our connection to the world. We lose what's left of our humanity. And he was just like, "I appreciate that this entire time you were trying to bring me back." But he was like, "We got to face facts." He was like, "The physical form of Alec Holland is gone, and the Swamp Thing is the Swamp Thing is what's here now." He was like, "As Alec Holland, I'm here. I'm along for the ride, but you're the one that's driving this car, so you need to decide who we're gonna be going forward." And then Alec walked away, and that was the last time we saw Alec Holland. And then Swamp Thing, he just sat there for a little bit, stewing in his stewing in his own thoughts. He went back to the laboratory house, and then Abby showed up at the laboratory house. And then he was like, "Why did you come back?" And she was like, "I came to see if you're okay." And then he was like, "Woman, Alec Holland is dead. He ain't coming back. Like, just accept that." And then she's like, "I'm not trying to bring him back." She's like, "I accept it." And he's like, "Then why are you here?" She's like, "I'm here for you because I care about you." And he's like, "I care about you too." He's like, "I was gonna leave, but you brought me back." And then she was just like, "Well, we have that in common." And then he looked out the window, and then he was just like, "There's a darkness out there. There's because again, like that chemical that Woodrow put in the green is still out there." So he was just like, "There's a darkness that's out there, and it's coming, and we need to be here to fight it." And then she was like, "Bro," she's like, "I ain't going." Abby was like, "I ain't going nowhere." So she was like, "If we gotta fight the green, we gonna fight the green together. You heard?" And then he was like, "I would like that very much." And then the camera panned out. It was all gravy. So now Abby and Swamp Thing, they're going to team up now to take on this darkness that's supposed to be terrorizing the green, which was, I guess, the plot of season 2. And then in a final, we got a post-credit scene. In the final post-credit scene, Maddie ended up going back to the police station because I guess he was going to quit the force, because he literally said, he was like, "Yo, I just came back here to get my shit." And when he got there were vines and trees and everything all over the police station. And then when he walked around the corner, he saw like a tree-like, plant-like creature. Because of the whole Holland situation, he assumed that was Alec. But then when he put the gun on him, he was like, "Yo, who are you?" And the creature turned around and he was like, "Well, I used to be Jason Woodrow." And then he was just like, "I don't know why Alec Holland doesn't like this." He was like, "This shit is cool," and then he ended up being like, he looked more like a tree, whereas like Alec looks more like a plant creature. Like, because Woodrow ate the swamp broccoli, it transformed him into like a tree-like creature. I forgot his name, but if you go back and watch the Batman Harley Quinn animated movie, the Woodrow character, the villain, like the Woodrow's character, he was the villain of that movie. And it did have Swamp Thing in it as well. I don't know if his name was Woodrow in the film. I forgot. I got to go back and watch. But that was the first time I've seen that character. So Woodrow, Woodrow was basically going to be, he was set up to be the villain for season 2. A plant-like creature in Swamp Thing going up against a tree-like creature in Woodrow. And the difference between Holland and Woodrow is Holland is a plant that thinks it's a man because it has his consciousness. Woodrow's still a man. Woodrow's a man that turned into a tree. So the dynamic between the two of them would have been very interesting. And then after that, you just heard gunshots and Maddie screaming, and then that's how the show went off the air. I don't think it killed Maddie, to be honest with you, because they didn't show us him actually getting his face ripped off. I don't think Woodrow really killed him, and I think Maddie would have still been around for a season 2. Yeah, so that was that was it. That's how the show ended. To wrap up certain character stories. I mean, Liz didn't do too much in the season finale. Liz is just Liz. Like she's still gonna be the reporter. She's still gonna be investigating everything, and she's still gonna be Abby's right hand and helping her, resolve all these problems. Woodrow was obviously going to be the villain for season 2. There was, it was like Woodrow was probably going to be the one that controlled the dark part of the green, and there was going to be the darkness versus the light. I don't know what was going to happen to his wife. I don't know, maybe if his wife, because the thing is, we actually don't know if he fed her anything off camera or not. When he held that spoon full of shit up to her mouth, I don't know if some of the juice from that touched her lips, and then maybe I don't know. The thing with the wife was always going to be a mystery to me, and I was very interested to see if she was just going to become a vegetable or if she was actually going to break out of that state. Maria Sunderland, she was going to get out of the nut house eventually, and the whole thing about like seeing the ghost, like Maria Sunderland's whole thing was she was just going to be like a low key villain who just does all this bad stuff with the ghost of Shauna like by her side. I don't know what's good with Madame Xanadu. I love me some Madame Xanadu, but I need an explanation on her powers and what she could do. She's basically just going to be like the poor blind woman that just be popping up out of nowhere, telling everybody what they need to be doing in order to save the world. Blue Devil probably would have made a cameo. He would have came back. I mean, as much as he hates Marais or whatever, he would have gone off to do his Blue Devil thing, and then he would have eventually come back for like 1 or 2 episodes to help Swamp Thing and Abby. Like I said before, Lucilia, I don't believe Lucilia dead. Because like I said, 3 people drowned in this show, and all 3 of them came back to life. So I don't see why her situation was any more different than anybody else's. And what the hell happened to Susie Coyle? Like, remember, like in the first 3-4 episodes, it was all about little Susie Coyle. And Susie's another one. Like Susie Coyle, she has swamp power to the point where she's connected to Swamp Thing. When Swamp Thing feels things, Susie felt it. Susie could see things through Swamp Thing's eyes. She knew. She was able to hear his consciousness and hear his feelings. She was the one telling people, oh, he's scared because he doesn't know who he is. And that's not because she had a conversation. She was saying that from a hospital bed while the transformation. So Susie just disappeared. Like, Susie showed up at the party with the nanny, and she was at dinner. She was sitting at the table having some dinner, and we ain't never see Susie Coyle again. And I felt like Susie was going to play a bigger part, before the season ended up ending only after 10 episodes. But she was definitely going to play a part in season 2 because she was connected directly to Swamp Thing. Abby was going to be Abby. I mean, this is Abby's show, so Abby Arcade was going to be Abby Arcade. She was going to get herself into trouble, and then good old Swamp Thing's going to come swoop in and save the day. But let me know what you think. Like, let me know who your favorite character was for the entire season. Let me know where you thought certain character arcs were going to go. Because again, unfortunately, the show got canceled the day that it premiered. but luckily the CW picked up the first season. They put the first season on their network. We've been reviewing Swamp Thing since like October, like the end of September, October. It's over now. Hope the ratings were very good in the beginning. I have to check to see how the ratings have been consistently throughout the show. But let's just pray, everybody. Hashtag save Swamp Thing. Let's pray that the response from the public watching it on the CW was strong enough to the point where hopefully HBO Max or the CW themselves, hopefully someone will resurrect this show and we can continue on with season 2. I want to thank everybody who put comments in throughout the course of the the entire season. Everybody that watched the reviews, who commented on the reviews, who liked it, definitely liked the video. Continue to leave a comment. Again, tell me who your favorite character was. For me, my favorite character is Liz. But the MVP of the I like Liz and Madame Xanadu, but the MVP of the show, honestly, it had to be Abby Arcane, because like I said, this is the adventures of Abby Arcane. So Abby did the damn thing, but I love me some Liz. So I definitely hope the show sticks around, for all the actors and everybody involved as well. And I said, but let me know who's your MVP, who's your favorite character. Do you think the show's going to get picked up? Do you want the show to get picked up or not? Let's keep a conversation going. Let's talk about it, and let's pray I'll be back to do a Swamp Thing season 2 premiere. And we also have other things going on. We have the Wonder Woman 1984. We'll definitely do a review for that. Swamp Thing officially ends all of the television reviews that I've been doing. Again, we started doing these reviews back when Titans came out, last September, and we went all the way through Arrow, through Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Batwoman. We did everything. I did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. we did Doom Patrol, we did Stargirl, we did Swamp Thing. So Swamp Thing is officially the last show to end season 1 of me doing my TV reviews. And when January 17 comes for Batwoman, we'll start season 2. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, as always, definitely subscribe, hit the notification, check me out on social media. And for the green, for the final time, but hopefully not the last time, take care, everybody. And I'm out this bitch.